Hey guys, TrepChains here on Diablo 4 with our Ashava World Boss kill on World Tier 2 Veteran during the Diablo 4 Server Slam, where the maximum level was 20, whereas Ashava is a level 25 boss. And Ashava should be coming about now. Here's Ashava. We do have 8 of our clannies in this fight. We did some early organization to get a bunch of us to the same instance, but any more than 2 parties, which is 8 members, was a bit challenging. If you are prepping to do this fight, Ashava is a poison boss. If possible, craft yourself an elixir at the alchemist prior and use that elixir just prior to the start of the fight. There is a poison resistance elixir which is preferred if you do happen to have the materials, but otherwise any elixir, for example an armor elixir or similar, would be fine as well. Just if you happen to have the mats for poison, go for poison before you fight Ashava the Pestilent. We are trying to stand relatively close to Ashava even if we're ranged, and that's because that sweep attack right there, that hurts. So if you are inside, you don't get hit by that and therefore don't just get absolutely wrecked by the poison on the sweep attack. Ideally also standing towards the back, because Ashava does a lot of attacks out the front, like that bite there. That bite would one-shot me if I got hit by it. So sweep attack, I'm trying to get in close. You can see Ashava's also generally doing a step before the sweep attack, so you've got to be moving a lot. Ashava moves a lot. Make sure you move a lot if you want to stay in good position. Ideally, as I say, really close and preferably to the back of Ashava while doing the fight. And you can see a lot of our people trying to do that there. If you get hit by it, you can see there, I just died getting hit by that sweep attack. I tried to get in, but I did not quite get in fast enough. You can revive at checkpoint, but it will use up your durability. You use 10% of your durability each time. So obviously after about 10 deaths, assuming you were fully repaired beforehand, your armor is going to be broken, and then you'd have to like TP out to town and get it repaired. So ideally, try and avoid death. If you can't avoid death, you can resurrect at checkpoint a few times without issue. But if you do it too much, you'll end up in trouble. There I am, dying yet again on that sweep attack, not moving fast enough. So I've used a bit of my durability here. You can also resurrect people if they're close. So if someone in your raid dies close to you and, you know, you're not at risk of death from resurrecting them, it is a good thing to actually resurrect them. When you get resurrected by another player, you're not going to lose that durability. So it helps you, like, get through a few more deaths. The other really important attack to be aware of with Ashava is effectively a clawback attack. Ashava will dig their 2 main claws into the ground and then sweep those claws straight backwards. And because I'm saying I want to spend a lot of the fight close to Ashava and near the back of Ashava, I have to be really aware of this one, because if you're not in exactly the right spot and you are doing that, you're staying near Ashava towards the back of Ashava, when Ashava does that claw back attack, you can get wrecked. So again, that particular attack is only going to show up in the second half of this fight, but when that claw attack is happening, and you can see because Ashava will put the 2 claws into the ground, you need to stand effectively directly at the center back to avoid being hit. So while the claws are hitting backwards, there's a little channel right down the center line of Ashava where you will not get hit But if you're slightly to the side, so you're at the back, but to one side or the other side, you will get hit and very possibly die to that claw back attack. So you've got to be really aware of when that's happening, and when it's happening, do your absolute best to get to the very center of Ashava's butt. I am fighting Ashava here on my sorceress. I'm running a build based around cold Frozen Orb and fire Hydra, because Hydras are pretty awesome in Diablo 4 on this sorceress. The other classes available in Diablo 4 are the Rogue, the Barbarian, the Necromancer, and the Druid. Now, fighting Ashava here, again, World Tier 2 veteran. It's a super long fight. Super long. So watch out for those attacks, particularly the big sweep attacks, the attacks out the front, including the bite and spewing poison, and in the second half of the fight, the claw back attack. That's probably enough explanation of the fight. Let's listen to a little bit of Diablo lore during the rest of this Ashava battle. Inarius and the Worldstone, from the Book of Cain. As I studied the end times, seeking ways to forestall what I have come to feel is inevitable, I believe it is more important than ever to understand the origins of our world. In the later sections of the Book of Cain, an epic poem that tells of the renegade angel Inarius. The accounts of Inarius' life state that he was an advisor to the Anjura's council, serving under the command of Tyrael, Archangel of Justice. It is further written that after eons of battle and witnessing countless acts of brutality, Inarius came to the conclusion that the eternal conflict was unjust and that his part in it must come to an end. He quickly resolved to seek out others who might share his view. In time, he recruited not only angels, but, incredibly, demons as well, and convinced them to join his blasphemous venture. There was one among them, however, who stood out above all others. While wounded or marooned on some broken outpost of the Pandemonium Fortress, Inarius arranged to meet the demoness Lilith. Lilith, who had suffered the hatred of her father Mephisto from time immemorial, had long awaited an opportunity to rebel. And so it was that something extraordinary and unprecedented happened. For the first time ever, combatants in the eternal conflict not only set aside their differences, but also formed a union. Drawn together despite opposing forces, they had discovered common ground. It is difficult for my mind to fully grasp, but the legends tell us that Inarius and Lilith fell in love. Incredibly, that single alliance would alter the course of the war, of reality itself, indeed, of all existence. Inarius and Lilith both pledged themselves to the other and vowed to escape the eternal conflict. United in purpose, they gathered their fellow renegades and either led a campaign to capture the Worldstone or used some misdirection to gain entrance to its guarded chamber within the Pandemonium Fortress. What happened next, I will attempt to convey as best I can through the hazy curtains of both time and myth. The creation of Sanctuary, from the Book of Cain. Books of Cain state the following. Inarius and his new companions altered the frequency or dimensional alignment of the Worldstone, using its power to conceal it from the angels and demons, still fighting the eternal conflict. they shifted the massive crystal into a pocket dimension, and there they shaped a garden paradise around it, a world of refuge they would call Sanctuary. We cannot say how this feat was accomplished, as the means of Inarius' actions remain unknown. But it is known from the books of Cain and other lesser sources from this time that the eternal conflict briefly came to a grinding halt over the Worldstone's disappearance. For my own part, it is amusing to think of what it must have been like for the forces of heaven and hell to fight their way to the Worldstone's usual location, only to find it missing. I would speculate that for a time both groups must have accused the other of stealing it, until they were finally convinced that their opponents were just as confused as they. The account given, supported by events which would come eons later, is that Inarius shaped Mount Arreat as a kind of protective shell around the Worldstone, and from there the rest of the world as we know it was formed. There the Worldstone remained until recent times, when the Archangel Tyrael destroyed the sacred crystal and much of Mount Arreat surrounding it. But I get ahead of myself. This matter will be addressed in a later section, for the implications of the Worldstone's destruction and its ripple effects are felt by us to this very day.
I need time to prepare that.
The Purge from the Book of Cain. Though the following tale strains credibility, I will transcribe it anyway. Lilith, the first mother of the Nephilim, was driven into a mad frenzy by the threat of her children's extinction. She morphed into a far more horrific form than any had ever seen, of tooth and claw, of spike and blade, and hunted down her fellow renegades. She ruthlessly murdered each and every follower of Inarius, leaving only him to discover the carnage she had wrought. Inarius was horrified by the loss of his comrades and the terrible deed that his lover had committed. Though enraged, he could not bring himself to kill Lilith, but instead banished her from the sanctuary they had made. Inarius then attuned the Worldstone to cause the powers of the Nephilim to diminish over time. He then disappeared, though some say that he still walks among us in a form more closely resembling our own.
I'm not ready yet.
Anonymous text found uncatalogued in the Great Library at Chaldean. As I have said before, untangling myth from history is a tricky business. According to the arcana that have found their way into my possession, the powers of the Nephilim did, indeed, fade over the course of generations. Today, our mortal bloodlines are the result of this great diminishment. Given the propensity for both good and evil in humankind, it is clear to me that some measure of our ancestors still resonates within us. And yet, I wonder, is it possible for humanity to evolve into something wholly extraordinary, or are we bound to the fate of our forefathers? I will speak more of Inarius and Lilith later, but both would return to play vital roles in the history of the world they created. That'll do for the lore for now. Less than a minute on the clock. Let's see this Ashava kill, World Tier 2, veteran. Everyone trying so hard. Ashava does not have much health left here, but obviously we also still don't want to die. Here comes that back attack. Nicely in the center there, missing it.
I'm out of potions.
Got hurt on that one. Just trying to throw as much damage as we can, whether we have mana or not. 30 seconds on the clock. Ashava is down. GG! Ashava down. Nice work, TRV and friends. Level 20 on the Server Slam, taking down Ashava, veteran. Thank you very much for watching, and GG!